Alright, rap and gang life go hand in hand. Always have, always will. From Bloods to Crips, from Chicago to LA. Here are 25 rappers and their gangs. Coming out the gate with Tekashi 6ix9ine. Let's keep it real. Tekashi 6ix9ine ain't never been built for the streets. But he sure played the role like he was. Before the rap game, Daniel Hernandez was just a Brooklyn kid trying to go viral. But in 2017, everything changed when he linked up with the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods. A move that gave him street cred, but also came with a price. 6ix9ine ain't grow up in no set, but he needed the blood stamp to make folks take him serious. 9 Trey, meanwhile, saw a walking money bag. They gave him protection, and he gave them cash and exposure. That's why in his 2017 hit, Gummo, it's red flags everywhere. Gang signs up, and 6ix9ine acting like he was really about it. But truth is, he was just playing a dangerous game. By 2018, things turned left. His own people started pressing him, seeing him as a liability. Then, they kidnapped and robbed him. Not long after, the feds swooped in, hit him with racketeering and gun charges. That boy folded quick, snitched on 9 Trey, naming names, and helped lock up multiple gang members. Once he got out, he tried jumping back into the rap game, but the respect, gone. Chris Brown. For years, folks been side-eyeing Chris Brown's blood ties. Breezy ain't grow up in no set. He's from Tappahannock, Virginia, nowhere near the gang politics of LA. But after moving to the West Coast, he started moving with certain circles, and before long, his name was tied to Fruittown, Piru. Now Chris never got officially put on, meaning he ain't get jumped in or put in work either. But what he did do was put money in the hood, hire gang members for security, and shoot music videos in their neighborhood. That got him a pass and a claim to affiliation, even though he ain't no full-fledged member. Over the years, Breezy stayed throwing up signs, rocking red, and moving with known bloods. Wack 100, a well-connected figure in LA, even co-signed his ties, saying Chris got real love in the set. In his 2014 video, Don't Think They Know, Chris paid homage to fallen blood members, throwing up hand signs that let you know exactly where he stands. Jim Jones. Word been out that Jim Jones got ties to the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods, and everything blew up after Tekashi 6ix9ine's trial. 9 Trey, one of the wildest blood sets on the East Coast, deep in the United Blood Nation. When 6ix9ine got jammed up in 2019, he snitched on a bunch of 9 Trey members, including Jim Jones. In court, 6ix9ine straight up called Jim a 9 Trey member. Then the feds played a wiretapped call where Jim allegedly talked about how 6ix9ine needed to be violated for snitching. That clip had folks going crazy. If true, that meant Jim was deeper in the game than he let on. But here's the thing, Jim never got charged. Even after all that in court, the feds never touched him, which got people questioning how real the allegations were. Jim stayed quiet, dodging direct answers about 9 Trey, saying he's about music, fashion, and money, not no gangbanging. Young Thug. Young Thug been different since day one, flipping the game with his sound, his fashion, and his whole vibe. But the streets always been part of his come up, as YSL, Young Stoner Life, was supposed to be a label, a movement. But the feds, they weren't buying it. In May of 2022, Thug got hit with RICO charges, with prosecutors calling YSL Young Slime Life, and saying it was blood affiliated, gang tied to murderers, robberies, and drug trafficking. Things got worse when they started using his own lyrics against him in court, trying to say his music was a confession. One track they played was Anybody of 2018, where Thug rapped, "I never killed anybody, but I got something to do with that body." But turns out, Nicki Minaj wrote that line, proving artists don't always write their own lyrics. That helped his case, big time. After 2 years behind bars, Thug took a plea deal in October of 2024, 40 years with 5 years in prison, commuted to time served, and 15 years on probation. His probation, strict. He was banned from Metro Atlanta for 10 years. Not just that, he got 100 hours of community service per year, 4 anti-gang talks yearly, no contact with gang members except Gunna and his brother. He can't make no music glorifying gang life. His team is fighting overtime to loosen some of the restrictions, but Thug's got to stay in line if he wants to stay free. King Von. King Von wasn't just rapping about gang life, he was living it. Born Davon Bennett in 1994, he grew up in Parkway Gardens, aka O Block, one of Chicago's deadliest areas, a known Black disciple stronghold. Von was BD to the core. His uncle was an OG, and his street cred was solid. That's why they called him grandson, cause he reminded the older heads of BD founder, King David. His name rang bells long before rap. His breakout hit, Crazy Story, was more than just a song. It was real life storytelling, straight from the trenches. Tracks like Took Her to the O and How It Go painted vivid pictures of the BD lifestyle. He was BD's voice in rap, something few could claim authentically. But Von's past caught up with him. He got locked up multiple times, including a 2014 murder case that he beat due to the lack of evidence. Even when rap took off, he stayed tied to the streets. On November 6, 2020, outside an Atlanta nightclub, Von ran into Quando Rondo's crew. A fight popped off, and before anyone knew it, shots rang out. Quando's homie, Lil Tim, fired the shot that ended Von's life. Quando Rondo came up in Savannah, Georgia, repping the Rolling 60s Crips heavy. Born Taekwon Terrell Bowman in 1999, he grew up in the struggle, surrounded by gang life early on. The Rolling 60s started in LA, but Quando put out for his own Savannah chapter, throwing up the set in his music and lifestyle. Quando's music always been personal, pain, loyalty, and survival. Tracks like Scared from Love and ABG, Anybody Can Get It, shows his mindset. Everybody either with him or against him. Then came King Von. Their tension turned deadly outside an Atlanta nightclub on November 6, 2020, when Von ran up on Quando and his homie Lil Tim fired the shot that ended Von's life. That moment changed everything. The rap game split. OTF versus 4KT. Lil Durk versus NBA Youngboys camp. Quando claimed self-defense, but the industry ain't rock with him the same. Shows got canceled, and his name stayed in street rumors. Then came more problems in June 2023. Quando got arrested in Chatham County, Georgia, hit with drug and gang-related charges. Prosecutors claimed he had a leadership role in the Rolling 60s. To make things worse, his best friend, Lil Pab, got shot and killed in LA, rumored to be a retaliation. After that, Quando said he was done banging, but in the streets, it ain't that simple. Now, he's just trying to move low-key, but his past keeps following him. Birdman. Brian Birdman Williams came up in the Magnolia projects of New Orleans, one of the hardest hoods in the city, where the streets swallow you whole if you ain't built for it. Birdman always been around the red flag. His connection to the Bloods got even more attention through his close relationships with Lil Wayne, who's also claimed blood. You hear it in the music, see it in the imagery, from red bandanas to the lingo. The influence is everywhere. In his track Always Strapped, Birdman rapped, "Red on the wall got me feeling like a fireman." Now, if you know, the color red, that's blood territory. He ain't outright say, "I'm blood," but the nod's been there for years. Not everybody convinced Birdman really banged like that. Industry figures like Wack 100 been vocal about it, saying his ties ain't as deep as people think. Some say he bought his way in. Some say he been moving with real ones for so long, he earned his stripes. Regardless, the influence is undeniable. His label, Cash Money Records, carried that same energy. The boldness, the flexing, the street ties that made it feel raw and authentic. Gunna. Alright, let's talk about Gunna. Cause when that YSL RICO case hit, his name was right in the mix. Sergio Giovanni Kitchens, better known as Gunna, blew up under Young Thug's YSL label. YSL was seen as one of the hottest movements in hip-hop, but the feds, they saw it as something else. In 2022, Gunna, Young Thug, and other YSL affiliates got indicted on RICO charges. Prosecutors wasn't calling YSL a music label. They was calling it a street gang tied to the Bloods, involved in drug trafficking, violence, and organized crime. Gunna though, he wasn't paid in as the leader, he was an affiliate. Then things got weird. During court proceedings, one of his co-defendants claimed Gunna was actually Crip affiliated. Now, that threw a wrench in the whole story, cause if YSL was supposed to be Blood, how Gunna claiming Blue at the same time? It made it look like YSL wasn't just one gang, but a mix of different street ties. But then things took a different turn when Gunna took a plea deal. The internet blew up, calling it a snitch move. even though he swore he ain't telling nobody. He took what's called an Alford plea, which means he maintained his innocence while accepting a sentence. But in the streets, that doesn't always fly. Since then, Gunna's been fighting to rebuild his career, drop new music, keep his distance from the drama, but streets still divided. Some people riding with him, others say he gotta hold that rat label. Blueface. Blueface been a viral name for a minute. Offbeat flows, wild antics, and non-stop drama with his baby mama Chrisean. But behind all that, he got real Crip ties. Born Jonathan Jamal Porter in Los Angeles, he grew up in Mid-City, a spot deep in LA gang culture. He never hid his affiliation. His breakout hit was literally called Respect My Crippin'. In it, rapped, "Mop the floor, hide the wet sign just to catch him slipping." Fans laughed, but to the streets, that was real talk. Everything about Blueface screams schoolyard Crip, from throwing up C's to the blue bandanas. Some homies respect it, others say he's making a joke out of gang life. Either way, he made his mark, but with that street life comes trouble. In 2021, outside a Las Vegas strip club, Blueface and his crew got into it with a dude. Words were exchanged, things got heated, and next thing you know, Blueface and his people pressing him outside. Surveillance caught it all. He ended up pleading guilty to assault and skated with a probation. Then, in August of 2024, the past caught up to him. He violated probation from the same case, and the judge hit him with 4 years in prison. His manager, Wack 100, says if he keeps his nose clean, he could be out by early 2025, which could be any day now. Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne been screaming blood for years, but he ain't grew up banging. He got put on later. Wayne came up in Holly Grove, New Orleans, where the streets were rough, but his gang ties didn't start till after he blew up. Once he was deep in the industry, he was rocking red, throwing up blood hand signs, and shouting out his set and songs. His connection to the Bloods came through Birdman and Cash Money Records. Birdman always moved with blood affiliated homies, and Wayne fell right into that circle. He started linking with other blood rappers like The Game and Juelz Santana, making it clear what side he was on. In Blood Walk and I'm Blooded, he let it be known. Salute to the B's and I rep that red. Some question if he ever really put in work, but one thing's for sure, nobody ever checked him for it. He's still throwing up the B's to this day. Nipsey Hussle. You can't talk about LA street culture without mentioning Nipsey Hussle. He wasn't just a rapper, he was a movement. Born in Ermias, Ashburn, Nip grew up in South Central LA, where gang life was unavoidable. He got tied in early with the Rolling 60s neighborhood Crips, one of the most notorious Crip sets out there. But Nip wasn't just about the set, he was about community. In Hustle and Motivate, he rapped. Started out the trunk, ended up at the dealership. That was real life. He built businesses, bought real estate, and helped rebuild schools. He was showing youngins another way to move. But in the streets, old beef don't die easy. On March 31st, 2019, outside his own Marathon clothing store, Eric Holder, a dude from his own set, confronted him. Words were exchanged, shots rang out, and Nipsey was hit multiple times. At just the age of 33 years old, he was gone. Holder got 60 years in prison, but the impact that Nip left, that's forever. BG Knockout. BG Knockout name rings bells in Compton, cause he came up right in the middle of the madness. Born Orlandez Tremel Hilton, he was deep in Nutty Block, Compton Crips, right alongside his half-brother, Dresta. His gang ties ain't just something he rapped about, they shaped his whole come up. When Eazy-E, the godfather of gangsta rap, saw the raw energy BG Knockout and Dresta had, he brought him on his legendary Dr. Dre diss track, Real Motherfucking G's. That joint, a straight up classic, but like a lot of real ones, the street life caught up to him. In 1998, he got hit with an attempted murder charge and got sentenced to 10 years behind bars. While locked up, he converted to Islam, changing his name to Al Hassan Naki. By the time he got out, the game had changed, but he still tried to pick up where he left off. Mac 10. Mac 10's from Inglewood, Blood territory, and when you talk about the West Coast gangster rap, his name gotta come up. Born Diedrich Damon Rollison, Mac 10 wasn't just affiliated with the Queen Street Bloods, he was putting them on the map. His 1995 debut album made that clear from the jump, especially For Life. where he spit, "I got them bees on my hat, got them chucks on my feet." He made it known what side he was on, and blood culture reigned deep in his music. But it wasn't just about throwing up a set. Mack 10 was also a businessman. He linked up with Ice Cube and WC to form West Side Connection, a group that helped shape the West Coast sound in the late 90s. But even though Mack 10 was making money moves, gang ties still brought drama. One of the biggest feuds in his career, his fallout with Ice Cube. They was like brothers, but after some personal issues, things got heated, and Mack 10 even said it could have turned deadly if they ran into each other in the wrong place. That's how deep street politics run, even in the industry. Even with all that, Mack 10 kept his business tight. He dropped multiple albums, started his Who Bangin' Records label, and made sure his Queen Street roots never faded. Dresta. If you're talking West Coast gangster rap, Dresta's name gotta come up. Born Andre Deshaun Wicker, dude came up in Nutty Block Compton Crips, one of the deepest Crips sets in Compton. His little bro, BG Knockout, and both of them was neck deep in the street life. By 17, Dresta was always caught up in drama, got convicted for assaulting another gang member, and did 5 years in California Youth Authority. While he was locked up, he sharpened his pen game, writing rhymes that reflected the real struggles of hood life. When he got out in 1993, he linked up with Eazy-E, who was already beefing heavy with Dr. Dre. That's when Dresta and BG Knockout hopped on Real Mother G's, one of the hardest diss tracks to come out of the West Coast. Dresta ain't hold back, clowning Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, questioning their street credibility while pushing that real gangsta sound. Then in 1995, Dresta and BG dropped their album, Real Brothers, holding it down for Compton. The album was full of gang stories, loyalty talk, and real life struggles. They even dissed death row artists, keeping the coastal rap wars alive. But things ain't stayed smooth. In 1998, BG Knockout got locked up on an attempted murder charge, and that slowed down their momentum. Dresta kept moving, but never hit the same mainstream success. Sendog. Born Senan Reyes in Pinar del Rio, Cuba, Sendog moved to Southgate, California, and got wrapped up in gang culture early. He was rocking with the neighborhood family Bloods, and if you know how the LA set works, that's a serious affiliation. His little cousin, Be Real, and through Sendog, Be Real got plugged in with the gang world too. Sendog was in the streets before the music, and when Cypress Hill popped off, he didn't shy away from his past. He once said in an interview, "We were living that life, and it naturally came out in the music." Even though Cypress Hill wasn't out there throwing up gang signs in their videos, the influence was still all over the music. Tracks like How I Could Just Kill a Man and Hand on the Pump had the raw street energy, and everybody who lived that life felt it. Sendog and Cypress Hill made a conscious choice to not overtly bang in their music, which helped them reach a wider audience without bringing unnecessary heat. Be Real, Bloods. Be Real lived that gang life, but he ain't let it define him. Born Louis Be Real Freeze, he grew up in Southgate, LA, and as a youngin', he got tied with the family Swine Bloods. In an interview, he straight up said, "Before the music, I was into gang life. They called me Real Chill." He was out there banging for real, but when Cypress Hill started taking off, he had a choice: keep going down the gang route or make a lane for himself. He chose the second one. One thing about Be Real though, he never denied where he came from, but he also didn't throw his set in people's faces through music. He explained it like this: "I wanted to talk about real life, not just my gang." That move helped Cypress Hill become one of the biggest Latino rap groups ever. But Be Real's past still follows him. At 17 years old, he got shot in a gang-related incident. That moment shook him. It made him see how easy it is to end up dead over this life. He started moving different, keeping one foot in the streets and one in the studio. J-Rock. J-Rock's from Watts Nickerson Gardens, where gang culture ain't something you watch from the sidelines. It's something you're born into. Before he was J-Rock, he was Johnny McKenzie Jr., a youngin' who got caught up in that life early, repping Bounty Hunter Bloods, one of the deepest sets in Watts. But unlike a lot of folks who stay stuck in the streets, J-Rock found his way out through music. TDE, Top Dog Entertainment, saw something in him early and by 2005, he was signed. He kept dropping raw, authentic tracks that painted a picture of what it's really like growing up in the trenches. His first album, Follow Me Home, in 2011, was a straight up blueprint of his come up to the struggle, the gang culture, the pain, and the choices he had to make. Cam'ron. Cam'ron is Harlem royalty, no questions. But his ties to the Bloods runs deeper than just rockin' red. Word is, his real affiliations come through the Bronx, where he was plugged in with some heavy hitters. But unlike a lot of rappers, Cam never really put his set front and center. He let the streets do the talking. Dude always been a hustler. Before rap, he was moving weight, getting money in the streets. That hustler mentality carried over into his music. Songs like Killer Cam and Get 'Em Girls was filled with flexing, street codes, and the kind of talk that only folks who really been in the game understand. In 2005, Cam got shot in DC, leaving the club in this blue Lamborghini. Word started circulating. Was it random, a robbery, or deeper than that? Some say it was just street politics. Others think it had to do with his role in Paid in Full, where he played Rico, a character based on a real Harlem hustler, Apollo Martinez. Cam laughed it off, but real ones know he wasn't just acting in that movie. He was bringing real Harlem stories to life. The Game. You already know The Game. Dude came out of Compton, but he wasn't just claiming it for show. He was really in the streets. See the block Piru Bloods? That ain't just something that he says in his music. It's something he's been living since before he blew up. From the very first album, The Documentary, he was repping his hood heavy. Songs like Where I'm From and West Side Story had him shouting out Bloods, Piru, and all the homies he grew up with. And if you ever doubted where he stood, his beefs made it crystal clear. The Game been in public shootouts, fights, and straight up street drama. His feuds with 50 Cent and G-Unit wasn't just industry feuds, it got real. And when he fell out with Nipsey Hussle and Lil Durk, folks knew it was on his sight. That don't mean it ain't cost him though. Street life don't come without consequences, and even though he's more a businessman now, he still got his ties to Piru. Cardi B. The only female in this list, Cardi B ain't never been shy about her past. She came up in South Bronx, Highbridge to be exact. Before she was a rap superstar, she was Bella Khalid's Al-Menzar, a young girl doing whatever she had to do to survive. She's been open about her ties to the Bloods, specifically the Brim set, since she was just 16. She even said it herself in a GQ interview. When I was 16 years old, I used to hang out with a lot of Bloods. I used to pop off with my homies and they'd always say, yo, get it poppin'. She was really in them streets, but she don't glamorize that life. Cardi always tell young girls not to follow her footsteps, letting them know that gang life come with serious consequences. But that don't mean she doesn't rep her past. Her early music had hella blood references. Red Bars was straight up a nod to her set, and even in her more mainstream records, you catch her throwing up gang signs, rocking that red, and showing love to her people. But Cardi, she leveled up. Instead of getting caught up in the street politics, she flipped it and used her hustler mentality to become one of the biggest female rappers in the game. She stayed authentic, but she makes it clear, she ain't telling nobody to go that route. 21 Savage. 21 Savage comes straight out of Zone 6 from East Atlanta, but his story's a little different. He wasn't born in the US. Dude's from London, UK, but he moved to Atlanta when he was just 7. Even though he wasn't born in it, he got deep into the trenches real quick. By his teens, he was already in the mix, hustling, robbing, and wilding with his crew, which had ties to the Bloods. He's been kicked out of damn near every school, dropped out in the 9th grade, and by the time he was 21, he was already deep in the street life. His whole come up was straight survival mode. But things took a real turn when he got shot 6 times on his 21st birthday in a setup going wrong. His best friend Johnny didn't make it. That moment changed everything for him. After that, he switched the hustle up and put all the pain into music. He dropped the Slaughter tape in 2015, letting the world know what Zone 6 was really about. His squad Slaughter Gang became part of his brand, and while it ain't an official set, it's tied to his past and his people. 21's music, all real talk. In Red Ops he says, I'm a real street explicitive. I don't see it that way. I was in the streets moving gunplay. But that street life followed him even after he blew up. In 2019, he got snatched up by ICE, and folks found out he ain't even a US citizen. His visa had been expired for years, and now the feds was looking at him sideways. Now, he's focused on giving back, teaching financial literacy to youngins through his 21 Savage bank account campaign. Chief Keef. If you talking Chicago drill, you talking Chief Keef. No debate. Dude paved the way for a whole new wave in hip-hop, and his ties to the Black Disciples being clear from the start. At age 16, he was already on house arrest at his grandma's crib, still dropping some of the hardest street anthems the game has ever heard. Then came I Don't Like, and boom, the industry took notice. Kanye hopped on the remix, and Keef was out of there. But he wasn't just rapping about the streets, he was in them. His Crew 300, which he name drops all the time, was linked to O-Block, a Black Disciple stronghold. In Love Sosa, he made it clear. These explicitives, Love Sosa, O-N or no N, explicitives with them old boys, you gon' get explicitive over. His biggest beef, Lil Jojo, a Gangster Disciple affiliate. They was sending shots on wax and in the streets, until Jojo got gunned down in 2012. Keef laughed about it on Twitter, making folks wonder if he had any hand in it. Legal troubles, non-stop. Gun charges, probation, violations, missed court dates. It was a cycle. In 2013, he got booked for violating probation after flashing a gun in a video. After a while, Keef had to choose to stay in the streets or boss up. He moved to LA trying to dodge the drama. Some called it turning his back, but real ones know he had to get out of there to stay alive. YG. Alright, let's talk about YG. One of Compton's finest and Treetop Piru blood certified. Born Keenan Jackson, he came up right in the heart of Piru territory, so it wasn't no surprise when he started repping the Westside Treetop Piru set. In an interview with The Fader, he kept it all the way real. I'm from Westside Treetop Piru. That's where I'm from, that's my family. YG ain't just affiliated, he built different. He ain't hide nothing about his gang ties, and his music's been dripping in Piru energy since day one. When he dropped BPT, he straight up told you what it was. I'm from BPT, Westside Treetop Piru. He never sugarcoated nothing. But here's the thing, YG always moved smarter than most. By the time 2024 rolled around, YG started shifting the energy. In August, he led a peace walk in Compton, bringing together rival blood sets including Treetop Piru and Fruit Time Piru, trying to squash beef and push for unity. Lil Durk. Lil Durk, real name Dirk Banks, came up in Inglewood, Chicago, where you either get money or get locked, or either get left in the dirt. His pops, Big Durk, was a real street dude, moving major weight till the feds hit him with a life sentence. By the time he was a teenager, Durk was rocking with the Black Disciples, BDs, one of the deepest sets in Chicago. His hood O-Block Lamaron, THF 46, was knee-deep in smoke with the Gangster Disciples, GDs. That beef been running for decades, and Durk's people was in it heavy. He started OTF, Only the Family, a BD-backed crew that stood on 300, a number he screamed in tracks like 300 Days, 300 Nights. Durk lived that life. And no Auto Durk, he rapped, ain't no fighting, bullets flying, you can't duck them. His right-hand man, King Von, got killed in 2020 after a fight with Quando Rondo's people, and ever since then, the tension with NBA YoungBoy's camp been up. Even after blowing up, Durk still got caught up with gun charges, shootouts, and RICO rumors. But one thing about him, he stayed 10 toes down, screaming O-Block, still making sure his steppers eat. Snoop Dogg. Before he was Snoop D-O-double-G, he was Calvin Brothers Jr., just another youngin' from the east side of Long Beach, where crippin' was the lifestyle. From the jump, he was rolling 20s, Crips affiliated. Even when he blew up, Snoop never switched up. He stayed repping the blue, letting the world know exactly where he came from. In Wrong Idea, he made it clear, I'm a Long Beach east side mad-ass Crip. But Snoop was always more a player than shooter. He had homies caught up in beef, drugs, and gang wars, but he knew how to play his position. Instead of letting the streets swallow him up, He used his charisma and rap skills to climb up and build a whole empire. But don't get it twisted, his Crip ties never faded. Whether he's throwing up C's in videos, shouting out fallen homies, or linking with big name Crips like Nipsey Hussle, DJ Quicks, and Blueface, Snoop always kept it solid.